You're listening to the TV Obsessive channel, presented by TVObscast.com.
Hello, welcome back to the TV Obsessive podcast. This is episode 57. My name is Ryan Kirksey. I'm a writer and contributor for TVObsessive.com, and I'm joined once again by Cameron Crane, executive editor for the site. It is July 5th, the first day of America's 249th year. How was your July 4th? And what's going on with you today?
Yesterday was weird. It's weird that July 4th was on a Thursday, first of all, and then it was like it was rainy here all day.
Okay.
So I didn't really do anything other than there'd be breaks in the rain, and I'd heard fireworks. So they persevered. Like, we got to do fireworks, even though can't cancel the fireworks.
Yeah.
So anyway, what about you? Did you do anything fun?
Yeah, we had hot and sunny weather yesterday, but so that certainly did not deter the it's illegal in our city to shoot off fireworks. That, of course, never stops anyone. And our dog was under the bed for 4 straight hours. So yeah, it's a typical July 4th.
Yeah, I'll forego a rant about fireworks. First, I'm not really on board with fireworks. I understand you go, ooh, whatever, but I think there's a lot of arguments against fireworks, and those do include like how they affect dogs, how they affect veterans with PTSD and stuff like this, and whatever. We don't need we'll get too political. Yeah. So we're reconvening here today to talk about The Bear season 3 more. People haven't listened, last week recorded a podcast talking about the season as a whole, and discovered, well, there's just stuff we're not going to get to. We knew that ahead of time, but I did think it was a little bit more of a struggle to hit on everything I wanted to hit on than I had thought. Anyhow, we're reconvening today, and the plan is in the second part of the pod, ultimately to focus on standout episodes from season 3. So we're going to have a discussion about the episode titled Napkins, and we're going to have a discussion about ice chips, which these two do seem to be broadly viewed as like the standout episodes of the season. So,
yes. So I'd say it's somewhat light on news this July 4th weekend. We've had a couple of, I guess, less show related, more industry related pieces of news to touch on. One is Netflix making good on its promise from a while back that it's going to, correct me if I'm wrong here, they're going to eliminate the basic subscriber plan. You can have the ad plan, or you can pay more. That's where your options going to be going forward, right?
yeah, so they did announce this a while ago, and they stopped offering this plan. So I don't know. But the news is now they're doing what they said they were going to do. So if you are on this basic ad-free plan for what, it's like it's one that's like $10 a month or $11 a month or something like that. Not anymore. Right. So it's like whatever your current billing cycle is up, they're pulling the plug on it. For a while, they haven't been offering it to new subscribers. So I didn't dig into all the details here, but I do get the feeling that it's going to be basically, hey, either you can get the cheapest plan and we're going to show you ads, or you can get the premium plan for $20 a month or whatever it is, with the ad-free, highest video quality, and they're getting rid of this one in the middle, which I would guess a lot of people had and have been holding on to. So
yeah, the grandfathered in basic plan is going away. As you said, it's not been an option for a while now for new subscribers. So you're either going to pay $8 and get ads, or pay $19 for the premium service, or $22 for the ultra premium service. All these, whatever that gets you, ultra, high definition, downloading, all these things. But yeah, there's no just sort of middle of the road basic plan at a certain point in time. I think that's imminent.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then if you look at this article from IndieWire that I'll put the show notes and things like that, yeah, they're basically, it seems they're pulling the plug on you. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen to people if they don't adjust things. I'm sure that if you're in this category, Netflix is sending emails and bothering you and so on and so forth.
Yep.
But it does kind of suck. I mean, this is the one that goes all the way back. basically, right? Like this is if you signed up for Netflix streaming, back in 2010 or something, potentially you've been on this plan for 14 years and like, no more. Oh, you deal with ads, you give us more money and whatever. I mean, I suppose fair
Are
enough.
you like me and you've been subscribed to Netflix so long you can remember when Netflix sent you DVDs? Were you part of that program?
Yeah, I was. I have since canceled my Netflix and resubscribed a couple of times. And
Yeah.
I know I'm doing the thing that the industry hates, and we'll see what they come up with. This is my understanding, Ryan, that right now all of the streamers are like, how do we stop the churn?
Right, right.
And so we're going to get some of these bundling plans and so on. Basically, how do we get people to subscribe and stay subscribed rather than just doing this thing, which I think a lot of people do, which is to say, like, okay, well, at any given time, I'll pay for, I don't know, 3 streaming services.
Yeah.
But not always the same 3, So sometimes I'll get rid of one and I'll add on another, and then I'll switch back later. And they all want us to stop doing this. And hopefully they don't get too nefarious in figuring out ways to keep us from doing it. But anyhow, we do have a little bit of news pertaining to shows.
Yep.
This Showtime program called The Agency has Richard Gere cast in it and some other kind of recognizable faces.
Yeah, this I think sort of raised the flag for me. Richard Gere, I think I want to say this piece says that it's his first TV role, maybe ever, but certainly in a long time. But he's joining Michael Fassbender and Jeffrey Wright, 2 of my favorites, who are going to be in a show called The Agency, which is a remake of a very popular French spy show called The Bureau. So this is going to take place in London, sort of spycraft, but also the intimate lives of the spies and what that is like. And this French show had a lot of popularity back when it aired, and so now it's being sort of rebooted with Richard Gere, Michael Fassbender, Jeffrey Wright. I'll be completely on board when this comes out. This is right up my alley.
Well, yeah, it really looks like it might be entertaining. I didn't realize it was based on a French show. I'm trying to remember now. At one point, I tried to watch some French show, like a legitimately French show on Netflix or whatever. This was years ago. That looked kind of cool, and it was like a spy drama or kind of cop drama or something like that. And I just like couldn't do it because like I can't understand how the French police system works. It was like the UK, I could muddle through. I was like France. I was like, I forget what the name of that show was, but it was something that a lot of people were saying, like, oh, this is really good. So it probably does make sense for them to take the French show and make an English language adaptation and probably change some of those cultural elements as well.
Yeah. This says the Gere will be a London station chief. Yeah, they're certainly going to adapt it to the more British sentimentalities in terms of some of these classic British spy things we've seen in the past. So it looks very good. Or it's in production. We don't have anything yet other than casting, but in terms of who's involved, it sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm confident it'll happen with these names and so on. And as long as Showtime continues to exist and everything else. Right. But yeah, I guess I mentioned that about the French show because that's not always the case. Where there was this show called The Returned. You ever seen this?
I've heard of
French
that
version. Love it and all. Excuse my French pronunciation, but that's really good. And it's like watch that and watch it in French and watch the subtitles. And they made an English adaptation of it that everyone was just like, that's not. Don't watch the English adaptation. Watch the original French.
Watch the original. Yeah.
So I guess that varies a bit. On the negative side, they canceled Outer Range on Amazon Prime. Do you ever check this show out, Josh?
So I've never seen this, and sometimes these cancellations come through, and it's okay. Yeah, that's too bad. I've seen some outrage over this. People hoping it's going to get a 3rd season, but I've never seen any of Outer Range. There's 2 seasons on Prime Video, I think.
Yep, that's right. I checked it out. I watched I don't even know. I'm pretty sure I wrote an article. It's probably just on the very first episode, and didn't find time to continue, or it didn't quite hook me. But I know that it's hooked other people quite a lot. I mean, one of the reasons why I watch it is Brian Allen, who writes for TV Obsessive, a lot of sci-fi stuff, I guess, primarily. he was telling me, "Hey, you really need to check out this show, Out of Range. It's really good."
Yep.
And I know he's upset about it being canceled, and others are as well. My understanding is that everything is unresolved. You know,
Oh boy. Okay.
in terms of storyline, like I was reading someone saying like someone was like, "Oh, did they at least wrap it up like kind of okay at the end of season 2?" Like, absolutely not. They did not manage to get
Oh
to
no.
the foreshadowed future. Like, one of those things where it's like they show you the future at one point in season 1 or whatever. It's like they didn't get there.
Oh
So
boy.
it sounds like it's bad in terms of where they're leaving people hanging. I have no idea if there's any chance of
That must
things
be
being
where the
resolved.
outrage is coming from. People that were heavily invested getting no answer whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the main big thing is that it does have a fan base, maybe not a huge one,
Right.
but for those who are invested in the show, they just got the rug pulled out from under them. So
You're
it's a
right.
bummer.
Oh boy. I'll save this bear stuff for when we get closer to that. What about what about this NFL Sunday ticket ruling in terms of we may need to do some quick explanation of what this is and what's happened here, but
Yeah.
I know you and I might get like $4.80 in the mail soon. It sounds like.
Not me because I never actually, paid the large price for NFL Sunday ticket because it's really expensive, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah. This is why we have a lawsuit.
right. That's why there's a lot of it. It's one thing like, Mike Florio is big into this. You can go watch Mike Florio, talk about this for 50 minutes if you're interested. But that's one thing he was pointing out when I was watching him on YouTube talk about it is PFT PM or whatever.
Yeah.
And that there is another class of people who are wronged, perhaps, who are like me and who never signed up because it was too expensive.
Oh, yeah. That
But
makes
there's
sense.
no way for us to get legal recourse, But yeah, that's the ruling. Now, I should note for people, we can explain this in a little bit more detail in just a moment, but I should note for people too, it's not completely resolved. The
Yeah.
news is that NFL lost the lawsuit, but it's not over. You have the possibility for an appeal. It could be overturned.
Hmm.
Other things could happen in terms of changing the amount of the damages, which is like gigantic right
Yeah.
now.
Billions and billions of dollars. Yeah.
$4.5 billion or something.
Yeah.
Um, but it's an antitrust lawsuit, and basically, to try to keep it simple, you've got, of course, the NFL games that are on your local affiliate like CBS or Fox and so on. But then, if you want to watch out of market games, hey, you can sign up for NFL Sunday ticket. And it's traditionally been that you have to buy the whole package. It costs like $400 or something.
Yeah. I got it as a
Um,
birthday present one year. It was like 350, 400, something like that.
yeah, I do remember there was one time when I was living with someone like 20 years ago, and he bought NFL Sunday ticket, and I was like, "Man, Nathan, that's expensive. You're
Yeah.
not asking me to like pay half of it, are you?" Because um, anyhow, I'm rambling. But the gist of the lawsuit is that the NFL there's collusion here to make NFL Sunday ticket really really expensive for the benefit of CBS and Fox and so on. That's my understanding of it. And a jury, in hearing the case, said, "Yep, seems like that's what they did."
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that there was also a factor of they would allow it to be sent through one provider. I think primarily that was DirecTV. So if you didn't have
Mm-hmm.
that, you were out of luck as well. And there have been bits and pieces of things people could have in the past. Right now I think the Red Zone channel is very popular, but this massively priced every game, anytime you want it, Sunday ticket that was, I think, $350, $400. Yeah, there was several people that went together, lawsuit, antitrust, price gouging essentially. And so now the NFL has been ordered to pay $4.5 billion. But apparently a federal judge, because the antitrust, could triple that if they felt so inclined to do so. It depends on how the appeals go.
Right. Yeah. So it's potentially this is a very big deal, potentially. I mean, it probably is one way or another anyway. You mentioned Red Zone. I have been paying for, if you go through NFL.com, you can like just get Red Zone, or
Hmm.
I don't know. I think you get some other stuff too on NFL Plus, like if you want to watch those 20-minute long versions of the games after the games have been played or whatever.
Yeah.
But primarily I get that for Red Zone, but then not have the ability to actually choose a full game while it's on. For that, you have to go through Sunday Ticket, which was on DirecTV. I think you're right about that. And then I think moved to YouTube this past
Yeah, they
year, or
had
maybe
it for a
2 years
couple
ago.
of years. Yep. Yep.
So either way, there's a very good chance that this product's going to become less expensive in the future.
Absolutely.
Um, because that's the gist of it, that they're kind of charging all of this money.
Yeah.
Or won't be offered in the same way, or who knows. That, the potential fallout of this is something I want to keep an eye on and
Well, I was
try to.
the case study for probably exactly what they wanted to happen. I got as a gift one year, and then would forget to unsubscribe, and then forget to unsubscribe. So like I said, I'm just hopeful. Maybe 10 years from now, I'm going to get a check in the mail for my $12 per season that I had it. It's going to be a great day.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, it might be more than that. If it's like a
Yeah.
$5 billion, I mean, what, if it's how many millions of people signed up, a billion is a lot more than a million,
That's right.
so hey man, maybe you'll get a check for a couple $100. Who
That'd be
knows?
great.
So we'll keep an eye on that. Maybe let's take on that front too. Hard Knocks. Did you watch
Yeah.
this? The off-season Hard Knocks premiered this past week. New York Giants. You check it out?
Yeah, I did check this out. I'm very curious, having been a long, long, long time watcher of the standard traditional, preseason Hard Knocks. Now they've got the end season version, which I thought the Miami Dolphins version was good last year. Now they have off season with New York Giants. I did watch this. I did find it interesting, but I don't know that everyone will find it interesting. I don't know if you saw it, but
I didn't actually.
this was
I'm curious. Like, should I watch it?
this was very in the weeds of conversations happening in office and how did they evaluate players. And, there's some interesting tidbits like what they thought about Saquon Barkley before they decided to negotiate with him. They haven't gotten to that point yet. But it's a lot of this assistant director of pro scouting, what they do and what they evaluate. And, maybe that's just sort of setting the stage for what these people do. First episode was very football in the weeds. So if you're just kind of watching it for the drama, didn't really have a lot of that.
Interesting. Yeah, it's still on my radar as something I might watch if I'm
Yeah.
bored. I mean, I guess a lot of the sports talk people also took this week off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's part of, maybe I was waiting for someone to be like, "Oh, can you believe this thing that's in Hard Knocks off season?" And no one has, but also like
Yeah.
no one's recording. Like Rich Eisen took this week off. I think like no one's doing anything because 4th of July and
Yeah.
it's the middle of the summer.
I think
But
week 2 will be the Saquon Barkley week. For those unfamiliar, Saquon Barkley was the tremendously talented running back for the New York Giants. He left this offseason and go to a different team. So there was some negotiation there and obviously some hard feelings and stuff that they had to work through. So I think that's coming in the second week. So probably more of the, hey, this is how this stuff works, as opposed to let's just follow a couple of scouting people around in the office all day long.
yeah, the most interesting things, particularly because I chose the Giants, the
Yeah.
most interesting things would be what happened with Saquon and how much insight do we get into that. And the other thing would be about all these rumors that they were trying to trade up in the draft. This rumor that's been in the air that they're actually completely done with Daniel Jones and out on him and want to replace their
Yeah.
quarterback, but just haven't been able to. But I wouldn't exactly expect the Giants to really give us, the juicy tidbits on that stuff. So
Yeah, it was. I mean, being a football nerd, it was entertaining, but it's certainly the most limited audience I would think than all three versions of Hard Knocks.
yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe I'll be bored and I'll watch it over the weekend. Um, I did check out, we talked about this on the podcast before, an upcoming show on Apple TV Plus called Sunny with Rashida Jones.
Okay, you seen some of
Um,
this?
yep, I got screeners, and I've written on the first two episodes. First two episodes come out on Wednesday the 10th. Um, I think I'm allowed to talk about it a little bit in a spoiler-free way. I don't want to say all that much. I thought it was pretty good, you
Yeah,
know.
okay.
So more just kind of a recommendation, I guess, to people to maybe check that out when it comes out on Wednesday. Keep an eye out for my write-up on TVObscast.com, and I think I'll continue on that week to week. It took me well enough. It's if you've watched the trailer,
Yeah.
there's maybe more mystery than the trailer lets on. It really is kind of more of a mystery show, I think. It's billed as
Okay.
a dark comedy. I guess, yeah, it's a comedy. I laughed, but after the first two episodes, I was like, well, I've got at least like 5 questions that I'm kind of working on in terms of
Yeah.
the structure of the show. So it got me sufficiently well in that regard, that we'll move
And
forward, see what happens.
I think this is safe to say that this is a show sort of built around the concept of AI. Do I have that correct?
Well, yeah, it's a robot.
Okay. Okay.
Sunny is a robot. Um, and I don't know. I do find the robot's demeanor to be a little bit grating personally, but it's okay. I mean, I think it's supposed to feed into the humor.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
show is set in like a kind of near future where virtually everyone has some kind of robot, like a home bot, but
Yes.
Sunny is a cutting edge model.
Okay.
The show's also set in Japan. That should probably be noted. Most of the dialogue has been in English so far, from what I've seen. Some of it's been in Japanese with
Yeah.
subtitles.
Okay.
Um, Based on a book by Colin O'Sullivan called The Dark Manual, which I have not read. Doesn't seem like it's the most popular book in the world from doing a little internet research, but it is a book that exists, you know. Like it doesn't have a Wikipedia page, for example.
Oh, I was gonna say it must be
So
very easily adaptable to TV then if it's not just people clamoring for it.
yeah, I don't know, but I definitely do recommend checking it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. Okay, it premieres Wednesday the 10th. Yes.
Yeah, Wednesday the 10th.
Okay. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm certainly gonna check that out. What else is going on? Our coverage of House of the Dragon is ongoing every week, every Monday. Thought this past week was quite good. The recap is up on the site. I think, having not seen ahead yet, I think we're going to get the opposite of last week. We're going to get a lot of action, a lot
I hope so.
of battles in this
I'm waiting for that
episode.
personally.
Yeah, yeah, it's time. It's time for some people to get up off the bench and do some things. So certainly no spoilers, but it's they've been building and building. It's time to time for it to happen, and I'm fully anticipating we get some battles, and I'm fully anticipating we get some deaths this week. So
Well,
watch out for that.
I mean, look, I'm tuning in to see tits and dragons, and I want to see dragons destroy things and fight each other. And I feel like they're trying to be more sophisticated than Game of
Yep.
Thrones was in a certain way, or something. Like, no, man, I was just
Yeah.
give me the violence. Anyhow,
Well, if you're watching for your your nudity fix, you got it in episode 3. So those that
a little
are still
bit.
waiting.
They still feel like they're whatever.
But I know you have one of these that you want to talk about. The finale of season 1 of the Traders ended, and I just let that thing roll. I mean, I needed more, so I'm now 2 or 3 episodes into season 2, and now you've got a new version that you're watching.
Yeah, I'll say something about that in a minute. But I want to know, first of all, Ryan, did you watch the reunion show with Andy Cohen?
I did
Yeah.
watch the reunion show. Yeah.
I couldn't help it. It was like with most things, I wouldn't really care all that much. But with this one, it was kind of like, yeah, seeing how these people feel about being stabbed in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta watch it. I have really gone down the rabbit hole, as it were, I guess, and I've watched like every version of the Traders available on Peacock in in English. I don't think they have any versions that aren't in English, but I do know
Yeah.
that there are versions in the world that aren't in English. If you look into the show, it's like countries all over the world. So we're going to make a version of this. Unfortunately, Peacock does not have the Canadian version, and I can't seem to find that to watch. But I said some things about the UK version last week. The Australian version, I thought maybe this was worth mentioning because there's a wrinkle in the Australian version, at least in the first season, where the shield of protection
Yes.
protects you against murder, but not banishment. Except in season 1 of the Australian version, they said, well, what if it protected you against banishment too? Maybe that'd be interesting.
Oh, okay.
And then I think they decided that wasn't a good idea. Because in season 2 they dropped it. But
This, as I mentioned last week, I watch some game shows, not habitually, but I cannot, after most of 2 seasons of the U.S. version having been completed, I cannot recommend this show highly enough. I mean, it is backstabbing. It is funny characters. It is Alan Cummings just being like this delicious, castle owner, game warden. He's just fantastic. I love that show.
yeah, and I do enjoy the U.S. version the most because of the Alan Cumming of it all.
Yeah.
And going to these other versions, it's just kind of more with a different host,
Yeah.
but the main meat of the show is in the strategy of the different people and how they try to sort out who's a traitor and who's not a traitor, and where it all ends up. So
Yeah.
the Australian version does take place in Australia, so that they have a different setting. At least the UK version and the US version are in the same Scottish castle. But
good to know. Okay, yeah, I do like that setting.
But anyhow, keep my eye out for the Canadian version, which
okay,
is not available in the United States apparently. And I think I did see the US version is coming back in, I think, January.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, well, I'll be on board for that. Every
I
week.
don't know, man. They're like, all right, am I going to watch it week to week? That just seems like a totally different experience.
It is a very bingeable show, I will say that.
Yeah. But okay, so I think talk about the Bear. You had a note about the audience, the ratings for the Bear season 3.
Yeah, some initial numbers have come in. It's been about I guess 7 or 8 days now since the Bear has been available to stream. In its first viewing window that they tracked, that got 5.4 million viewers, which is about 1 million more than they got in the same window from last year. So, I mean, any doubt that this, we're going to talk about this show sort of in from a critical perspective here in just a moment, but any doubt that this was not one of the most, popular and anticipated shows put to bed. I mean, just continuing to build upon the popularity, obviously the Emmys, the ratings that's received. So yeah, 5.4 million viewers.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
For
And
FX on Hulu.
It feeds into how FX is going. Well, why are you complaining about the binge drop model? It's working. You're like, you don't get it. There are reasons. But from their perspective, we're like, we're getting what we want. Tons of people are watching it in the first week, and we're sitting over here going like, but yeah, couldn't you like give us more time to digest?
The Bear now ranks 3rd among all original season premieres on Hulu. I don't know what Hulu has a lot of its own content, but also a lot of things that it partners with. So I don't know what all that tracks, but I don't know what would be ahead of it at this point, but pretty good.
I mean, I don't know if what you're looking at is are they running together Hulu and FX on Hulu?
Yeah, that's my question. I mean, like Handmaid's Tale. I mean, things like that.
Handmaid's Tale is a Hulu original.
Yeah.
Not FX. Anyway, people are watching the Bear. People are talking about the Bear. It's all over the place. We're going to talk more about the Bear. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, last week we recorded a podcast talking about all of season 3. You can go listen to that if you haven't already. What we're going to do here today is talk about a couple of standout episodes. but I think I should say spoilers are on the table for everything, really, that exists of the Bear through season 3. We'll be focusing on napkins and then on ice chips. And I guess before that, maybe we'll talk about some other things a little bit. Anyway, I'm gonna give the spoiler warning now. I'll put in a little bit of music and pick up talking about the bear on the other side.
Okay, we are back to talk about The Bear season 3 for our second week. Yes, as Cameron mentioned, we want to talk about the episode 6, napkins. We want to talk about episode 8, ice chips. And we're going to do that in time. I want to spend just a few minutes on something I've noticed this week, which is this season, perhaps more so than the first two. Would you say it's debuted to mixed reviews? I think it's gotten a pretty high critic score. Audience score has been lower than years past, but it's been mixed. Has that been your experience of what you've seen so far?
Yeah, it does feel a bit more mixed than, season 2 seemed universally acclaimed when it came
Yep.
out last year. Season 1 also, but in a different way. With season 1, it was like, oh wow, this show that you didn't even know about. Now
Exactly.
everyone's watching it and saying it's good. Season 2, like, oh, we got more of that show we loved last year, and wow, it's really good. And maybe some people had some criticisms about Claire and things like that, but yeah, it has seemed a bit more mixed with season 3. I have a couple of thoughts about this in terms of why.
Yeah.
What about you? How do you?
I think generally we've seen a couple of things that people that have said, well, not quite up to the first two seasons have said, um, some of these big storylines or big things hanging out there, we saw zero resolution to them, which I am certainly sympathetic to, particularly the Clary Carmi aspect of everything. We clearly had no real solution or resolution to the what's going to happen as a result of the review. We had no resolution in terms of what is Sydney going to do about the partnership agreement versus the offer from Adam Shapiro. And so I think it was as a result of that, one of the, I think, clear themes I saw, and I've been reading a lot of people's opinions about this show, is that, well, when you don't have any forward momentum, when you don't have any sort of propulsion of the episodes pushing you towards something, or pushing you to something that you're getting some sort of sense of closure or resolution on, it just feels like you're spinning your wheels, and it feels like you are not moving the characters forward on their arcs, moves like you're not moving the story forward, and it's on the path that it's supposed to be on. And I just have some thoughts on that in terms of there are things that have been brought up, rumors that have come out about sort of how the season 3 and season 4 trajectory has been handled behind the scenes, right? So there was a clear renewal of season 3. Very quickly thereafter, a renewal, an order for season 4, and there was some thoughts of, Christopher Storer might wanted to have ended this at 3. Wasn't sure what he would do for a season 4, but that quick of a trigger on getting a season 4 sort of forced his hand a little bit to make what would have been one season stretched into 2. Thus, why we got To Be Continued for the first time at the end of season 3, right? Everything's sort of still dangling out there. I think that there would have been more of a closed doors on some of these things if there had been, well, we're going to go for a season 3. We'll wait and see what happens with season 4 and thereafter. I guess my big criticism, because I wrote in my season 3 recap that I thought, just sort of equating to one of the themes of this season, they talk a lot about Michelin stars. You basically have to be perfect to get a Michelin star. Then you have to be even better to get a second. And I thought with the first 2 seasons, they earned it. With this 3rd season, they earned another one. I thought it was just phenomenal. And I guess my question to those that say, how's it moving forward? What happened to our characters? Where are they actually going? Nothing actually happened. Is that once we knew there was a season 4, what exactly did you want to happen when you're talking about running a fine dining restaurant? You can't just have everything either succeed or blow up by the end of season 3. Then what happens in season 4? Well, everybody's just looking for a new job. You can't have everything sort of every door be closed, every loose end be tied up, because if you know that there's a season 4 and you know that they're doing it almost sort of in this back-to-back way, I'm just not sure what exactly where else you wanted them to go, sort of create new problems and tie them all up and then leave other ones going forward. I'm just not sure once we knew about a season 4. This kind of, I guess, I was expecting that this is how it would go. Maybe that's just my own sort of take on it. I expected that there would be this trajectory that's going to take longer than this season once we heard about this sort of quick turnaround between the two. But that's just me. I thought it was a brilliant season. I'm certainly, like I said, sympathetic to those that thought it was more mixed, but those are just my thoughts on sort of how I view the way that they handle the stories in season 3.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think I said last week something along these lines. It does feel a bit like it's half of a season. I think that's okay. It doesn't feel like, in my own mind, it's not a big criticism.
Yeah.
You can sketch out. I mean, like I said last week, I think my expectation is actually we're going to get resolution to all of these questions at the end of season 4. So I know people are going to get increasingly frustrated. Like, why are you making me watch 5 hours of TV with no resolution? I mean, come on, it's not that much.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think it gives space for episodes like the ones we're going to focus on today. Like episodes that from season 2 that were widely acclaimed, like
Yep.
Forks, or whatever the name of the one was where Marcus went to Copenhagen.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. I want more of that personally. And I guess it kind of, the broader level question is, well, what do you want out of your TV viewing experience?
Yeah.
And to what degree is this a frustration from people who want plot and plot resolution? When I think that what I really appreciate about The Bear is more along the lines of, I don't know, the vibe of the show, the characterization,
Yeah.
its rhythms, which are sometimes slow and meditative, but sometimes fast and frantic and anxiety provoking, like in the kitchen or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the other thing that I think. I don't know what you think about this take, but we were talking about the high ratings and so on. And I do kind of feel like maybe The Bear as a show kind of breached containment a bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the show became too big. The show shouldn't be that big. What do you think about that as a claim? Because I mean, maybe not all of the people that you're talking about. I get there's some valid criticisms, but I've seen others who are kind of griping about it, or I saw someone on social media complaining about episode 1, and I think their starting point was that it was the best Nine Inch Nails music video ever, which I agreed to, just like unironically.
You're right.
But no, in the background, they're actually saying that is a criticism. They actually thought it was bad, like the show is too self-indulgent or what have you. And I can see where that criticism comes from, but
that's the thing. I think I wrote about Napkins this week, and we're going to touch on that soon. Knowing that episode 1 and sort of that music video, that musical interlude, however, we've described a lot of different ways. The Tina episode in Napkins, I think Ice Chips probably was always going to happen, but stretching out that 1 season into 2, what would we not have received if we had to condense it into 1? I think that's a question that that we have to ask ourselves. I certainly understand people who say, well, seasons 2 and 3, the 5 best episodes, sort of universally considered the 5 best episodes, are all outside the restaurant. You don't see the restaurant at all in these episodes. And I guess I would say, do you think this is a show about a restaurant? Because that's not what I think this is about. This is about these characters, their past catching up with their present, and what it's going to do to affect their future. And so I enjoyed the restaurant pieces. They are very anxiety inducing. They are very sort of dramatic in terms of what they're trying to achieve. But to me, they're not as interesting as following these characters for where these characters end up. I do think, to your point, that this show has gotten so big, maybe the first two seasons was sort of like, oh, look at this cool thing we found. It's sort of, in this, keep it in this circle. Now it's just, you cannot escape this thing. And so I do think there's some of I hate using the term like, casual fans or things like that, but just like, oh, I thought this was going to be, a scripted version of Top Chef or, whatever. And I got, an episode where we are, sitting with someone in labor just, I think that there is certainly some of that as more and more people get added onto the audience.
Yeah, that's sort of what I meant, that
Yeah.
it's gotten big enough that people start feeling like they're supposed to watch it. They're supposed to think it's good. Everyone thinks it's good. How dare
Yeah.
you? And you start to see some of those negative reactions,
Yeah.
even being written. And what I'm tempted to say is, well, maybe it's just kind of not for you.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Have the courage to be the guy who doesn't watch Succession because he doesn't like it.
You know somebody like that.
That's me. That's me. But you know what I'm saying? Because I felt that way about Succession. Like, oh man, this show's a really big deal. I better watch this show. And I tried, and nope, not for me.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the move some people should make with regard to the Bear. I don't know. I'm not trying to talk down my nose to anyone. On the contrary, I hope that's clear. That maybe the Bear is a show that some people love and doesn't have the kind of broad appeal that maybe others are expecting it to have, given how acclaimed it has been. And that's the source of some of these criticisms. That's my suggestion.
Yep. I think that's spot on. So I just thought we could address some of that before moving on to do pretty brilliant episodes, but that certainly is out there right now. That debate is happening.
Yeah, and I think, okay, well, we're going to get season 4, and then you're going to get resolution of this stuff when we get season 4, and so
I'll say one more thing about the issue. So I've mentioned before, I listened to the Parks and Recollection podcast, which is Greg Levine and Jim O'Hare, who both works on Parks and Rec, who are just going through a rewatch and this sort of popular thing that's happening right now across a lot of shows. They talk all the time about how every season that they were on, even though they were so popular at the time, every season they were on, the last episode, they created it so that it could be a series finale. We never knew if we were going to keep going or not.
Mm-hmm.
So when you know that you have a season 4 and you're going to be quickly rolling into it, you create a season that is going to inevitably go into those things that you want them to roll right into when that 4th season happens. You don't have to plan for, oh, what if we get canceled? What if it doesn't happen? What if, we take a step back? What if it's 2 more years? They didn't have those questions. It was, we're immediately going into season 4.
Yeah, and so would people feel better if they've labeled this season 3 part 1 and
right
season 4 if they labeled it as season 3 part 2? Would that make people feel better? Is that what it is? I don't know. Yeah. Mad Men, similarly, I've read, was like that. Every season of Mad Men, they said, if this is the end of the series, we're going to write it in a way where if this is the end of the series, we'll be okay with that.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's not the case here. And there are all these indications too that maybe they already filmed the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about that virtual press event and the comment that we heard when we went to that. We were talking about that last week and the kind of oddness of how they responded to this question about it being back to back. Maybe this is the answer, that actually internally it's kind of viewed as one season they filmed all at once, and this is half of it.
Yeah.
And so on. So anyhow, we're going to dig in on Napkins first, and then we're going to dig in on Ice Chips, and there'll be kind of separable segments, but we'll roll through as it were. So let's talk about Napkins.
All right.
With your summary.
Napkins, episode 6 of season 3, written by Catherine Shatina, directed in her directorial debut by Ayo Edebiri, who plays Chef Sydney. After 15 years of working as a payroll clerk, Tina is laid off from her job at a terrible time financially for her entire family. Tina tries unsuccessfully to get a job all over Chicago, but she has no college degree. She has limited skills. The world seems to have gotten a lot younger and a lot hungrier with the people that she's competing with for jobs. After a rejection, she stops at the Beef, and Richie gets her a coffee and offers Tina a free sandwich. And she is able, while having that sandwich, to have a conversation with Mikey about just how cruel and awful the world has been to them. Both see the value in their work, both which wanted as something to help support themselves and their families. They love the routine, but more than that, they love the people that they work with. At the end of this conversation, Tina is offered a job as a line cook at the Beef, and she accepts. Again, one of these episodes outside of the restaurant. This one is not so much real time as the other ones we've seen, like Forks and like Copenhagen and others that sort of happen as we are going along the timeline. This one takes a look back several years. And I think I wrote that after getting a lot of Tina in culinary school last year, I wasn't sure we'd get a Tina standalone episode. But this is a really interesting part to add to her journey, and probably my favorite episode of the season.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's my favorite episode of the season or if that's Ice Chips. We can revisit that after we talk about that one. But we're talking about Napkins first. And I really did think it was a powerful episode. I will admit, in the first time watching it, to a little bit of confusion as it began, because it wasn't super signposted that it was a flashback episode.
Yeah.
I guess
they wanted us to find out because of her hair, right? That's kind of the thing.
Yeah, I guess. And I also I kind of thought that she'd been working at the Beef for longer. Although I guess it is in here that this is happening in 2018, and I think the current timeline is basically 2023.
Yeah, so she was there for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years. That is a good amount of time. So okay, fair enough. Really compelling, really great to see that scene between her and Mikey. In particular, I don't know where to start exactly. I mean, her job search, the fact that she lost her job. There's commentary going on here, in relation to this experience that she has.
I was trying to think about when did this happen in relation to various, whether it's economic downturns or things happening, but it just seemed like she's working for this, not mom and pop type place, but this is a small local manufacturer that just fell in hard times, had to bring in 4 or 5 of their, maybe 30 employees and lay them off at one point. But I think it's just meant, particularly as it sort of is juxtaposed against showing her family, just for working class in Chicago. I think they're really trying to sort of show just how hard that can be when, Chicago we've talked about is definitely a character in this show. And I just found that it trying to be a real honest look at, this is just sort of middle class, barely getting by. This is a really tough place to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think that there's any broad scale excuse like a recession or financial crisis to be appealed to. But to me, that's sort of the point, is that this is just kind of distressingly normal, that at this point you could work at this company for 15 years and just all of a sudden one day be laid off because, well, they decided that they needed to do that. They decided they needed to cut costs in this way by laying you off. So sorry, right? But they're not. I don't know, man. I don't think they're not sorry. And
right.
Many times you have to know the details, of course, of the specific situation and so on. But it doesn't tend to land for me terribly well when over and over here again I hear this company say, well, we had to do it, like we had no choice whatsoever. It's like, oh really? You had no choice? How much does your CEO make every year?
Exactly.
Eat the rich. Anyway, but then part of what's interesting about it, and man, I don't know what it would be like for me. It's been a while since I've engaged in this kind of job search myself, but I think that's part of what was striking, is the difference between looking for a job even in the early aughts well, so it would be like 2003 that she got the
Yep.
job at this chocolate factory.
Yep.
And now in the broad sense, because I think in the broad sense, 2018 manages to get in there as relevantly now, you know. Well, you go on LinkedIn and
Mm-hmm.
all of these things like what's a LinkedIn? You know what I mean? Like she's trying to go around giving people a paper resume, and the way in which the world just doesn't work, and she doesn't understand. But she has the discipline to get up every day at 6 a.m. and start her job search. And
Yeah.
kudos to Tina. Every time I've been unemployed, I have been far worse than this.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been a long time since I've had to do a substantial job search, and I found myself, this one I think a couple of times when she's doing the job search, and then later we'll talk about conversations with Mikey. I forgot this is fiction. This is a show, right? They do such a good job of making you sympathetic to what Tina is going through and how hard it is, and it just made me think like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I've not had to do something like this. You connect with her so much, whether you've had to go through that process or not, because you just sort of like the fundamental. All I want to do is just help my family as we're struggling financially. Everybody's had that scenario happen, and so it's so powerful. I think they did a good job sort of raising those stakes emotionally.
Absolutely. I mean, it is a terrible experience if you've gone
Yeah.
through a protracted job search and all of this. Okay, it doesn't work out, and I saw someone on social media, or whatever, quipping, that they should make it so that putting in effort to look for a job has different results from not putting in any effort to look for a job.
Yeah, right.
because that can happen. You work so hard like Tina's doing here, and you get nothing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to say a couple things about her husband. You pointed out that
Yeah.
this is her real life husband, first of all.
Yeah, this is. So I mean, there's a clear connection there because they are in fact married.
Yeah. Well, I recognized him as Angel Batista from Dexter.
That
He's been in some other things. So I think he was
means
Oz.
nothing to me. Yeah.
But the other thing I wanted to say about his character is, particularly when I was rewatching it last night, preparing for our podcast today, it was just so striking to me how supportive he is. The character, just like what a good husband he is.
Yes.
Tina's got a good husband.
Knowing that he has gone through his own professional heartache in terms of waiting for promotion, waiting for these opportunities, telling he's going to, or being told he's going to get them, and them never coming, to be immediately sympathetic to Tina after she loses her job and encouraging her, and not just never saying just settle. We need you to get something so we can get some some money coming in. Just constantly pushing her and encouraging her along the way. I thought it was to create that what is actually a real family dynamic. I mean, they just really, I think, established that well in a very few scenes that he's in.
Right. He's just telling her not to worry about it, telling her not to panic, But of course he knows, and she knows that he knows that it's a problem, right? They had their rent raised on them. I mean, that's another thing. People haven't had this experience of just all of a sudden out of the blue one day, your landlord tells you your rent's going to go up, and you can either pay it or leave.
Yeah.
That's no fun either. I've had that experience myself in New York City, where I was like, I cannot actually afford $300 more a month.
Yeah.
And we have to figure something else out, right? But they want to keep this apartment. They need to keep this apartment. Everyone to put that. And so we should talk about what happens when she goes to the beef a bit more, right? Napkins, it comes from the fact that Mikey's restocking napkins, as notices that Tina's crying.
Yeah.
And then they have a really poignant conversation. Thoughts on this?
Yeah, he does a good job, I think. If you're, first of all, good for him, because I see that situation, I kind of step away, I back off, right? I'm afraid of how to handle it. But he sort of breaks the ice with this line of, "Oh, the sandwich isn't really that bad, is it?" This kind of trying to make a connection with her. And I just, I don't know how many things I've seen with John Bernthal in them over the years. This might be my favorite, this conversation that he has with him. I mean, he looks like someone who is not acting, who is really going through this and is really connecting with her and understands that, yeah, I may have a job and you may not, but we're going through some of the same crap and we are just trying to get by and help people that we know get by. It just, I mean, I frankly just fell in love with this conversation and thought both of them were brilliant. I mean, it's my favorite part of the season, this one particular conversation.
You know, I know I agree. Brett Berthol's great here. And the depth of it, in terms of, I'm struggling to get to the point I want to make, I guess. The way they talk about sort of not having dreams.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to be inspired. Or Mikey talks about that field trip or whatever he took when he was a kid and he saw all these floors and all these different businesses and he thought, oh, that's never going to be me. Yeah, and I almost don't quite know what to say about this. It's really got me thinking about that, how culturally I feel like things have really gone into a direction of that not quite feeling acceptable almost. Like you're supposed to have dreams, you're supposed to have inspiration, you're supposed to hustle. Everyone got to hustle, and that their position is sort of like, I would prefer not to, I'm willing to work. Tina's position is, I want to work. Give me a job. I don't care what it is. I want a routine. I want a paycheck. That's it.
I'll cook whatever. I'll wash a dish. I'll clean a floor. I think it's quite interesting and certainly not coincidental that they bring up Carmy in the midst of the conversation. He gets the photo from the dish that Carmy sends him. And so it sort of uses it as a launching pad for, there are people who have dreams, who have goals, who are excellent at those things, who know how to pursue them, who are dedicated to achieve them. And there are some people that just want the nobility of working hard and being able to provide, right? I think that what they're doing is they're putting those two things on equal level and saying, you don't have to be Carmy. You can be just someone who chooses to work hard and earns a living and takes care of people. And that's just as noble as, and maybe just as impressive as being able to create some sort of magnificent avant-garde dish that no one's ever seen before.
Yeah, I like the word you chose there, nobility. Really respectable about it. But then, also let's think about bringing in some other things. Like, think about Tina's arc overall. Most of what we've seen of Tina has been after what we see in Napkins, right? So we have to reconstruct it a bit. You go back to season 1 when Carmy comes in, he's disrupting her routine. She just wants to keep working her job and collecting her paycheck and all of that. And now this guy is trying to come in and change everything and so on. So I think we should also think retrospectively about her ultimate buy-in to that and what happens in season 2 and her episode in season 2 in terms of going to culinary school and so on and so forth. But I don't think that there's like some break there or something. But I don't think Tina's quite changed her mind from her position here. More that she is come to invest in what she's doing as a chef in a way that goes beyond just wanting to do this for a paycheck or whatever. I don't know if I'm making sense here.
I actually thought along those same lines that it was interesting in season 1, Tina struggles to make the mashed potatoes or make these things that are up to Carmy standards. More simpler things, but still struggling to do it. Works hard, is able to achieve it. Season 2, goes to culinary school. She's the youngest one, struggles at first, then makes it to the sort of test dishes, having trouble with some of the, I think it's the steak dish at the end, right? So she's struggling, but she's working hard to achieve it. Season 3, she's struggling with the pasta dish. She's struggling with the changing menu every day. But still, it's that work ethic, that idea of, I want to create whatever it's going to be. I want to create that routine or that system so that I can do it. She doesn't stop working when she reaches that barrier. I think that's one of the most commendable things about Tina is that she's constantly faced with these things or new challenges, and she's risen to achieve them. Whether she sees fine dining as like this I've now fallen in love with it. It's the thing ahead of her, and so she's not afraid of those challenges.
Right. And I think, her buy-in is at the level of this is what I'm doing. I'm going to do it well. I'm going to do a good job. And that works for her. And you do get that contrast between her and Ibrahim. We think back to
Yeah,
season 2, who's also sent to culinary school and drops out. He's just like,
yeah,
not for me. You know what I mean? They've brought him along as the sandwich window guy, so he still has a place in the business ultimately. But there is a kind of disjunction. And I don't think by any means Abraham is lazy or anything like that. No, he's willing to work. He's just like this
yeah.
highfalutin, this is not me,
Right,
So I
right.
don't know. I just think it's interesting to think about how we have seen Tina buy into that notion of excellence
Yes.
that's kind of going beyond just, hey, I want a job, I want a routine, I need money.
Yeah, yeah. And I've seen some commentary that, oh, yeah, this is all sort of set up serendipitously. She lost the job so she could be at the beef and she could have the sandwich and have the conversation and get the job. And it's like, I didn't read it that way that, oh, this job loss had to happen so that she could find her, her passion, her career. It's more just, would she have taken that job or applied there if she and Mikey had not had that conversation and made that connection, right? It's just that wasn't the type of place she was applying. It was more of a, I can connect with people here. I can connect with what they're trying to do, and Mike and I seem to be very very much on the same page with a lot of things. So it's not just like, oh, this was always ordained that this is the way that it was going to be.
Yeah, I didn't really read it that way. I mean, if people are saying, "Oh, is it a little bit too convenient or something?" It's like I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I'm watching a TV show. What do you want? Um, but if you think about it, no, Tina would have been more than happy to just keep working the job that she lost. She would have just kept doing that.
Yep.
Or the one job where that she kind of almost gets, that's almost exactly the same as the job that she lost, but she can't get
Hmm.
because she doesn't have a bachelor's degree.
Right.
You know,
Right.
um, she's desperate by the time that she's coming into the beef.
Yeah.
Um, and the serendipity, I suppose, would be that they needed an employee.
That's
Yeah.
right.
But okay, it's a story. It's fine.
Yeah. And I think that,
Um,
we shouldn't forget or fail to mention that it can't be an accident, right? Io DeBerry, who directed this, to put in all these cuts and pieces of Tina making food for her family. How
right.
important that was, right? Cooking dinners in the crock pots, getting David's lunch ready, getting food for Louis to send off to school, making sure that they're taken care of. That was a routine to her, but it was also immensely important. So she can now translate that into what this job is going to be. Probably why she jumped at a chance to do something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Good call. That's in there in terms of the importance of food. I don't know what Mikey says about people coming together around food
Yeah.
and so on. I mean, of course, his story ends. We know how his story ends. It's
Hmm.
not good. It's tragic, But nice to see his character here as well in this scene, right? Because everything we've gotten of Mikey has been in flashback,
Yeah.
but it's always been clear that these people really cared about him.
Hmm.
And it's nice to see why, including
Yeah.
Tina. I mean, of course, Richie and Natalie, but also Tina, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
so
Exactly. Yeah. Just great. I mean, anytime that they put scenes with Mikey in, I mean, it's just been really powerful. Most of it, or a lot of it, has been in confrontation with people, or in, a sense of trying to find out, find out more about the struggles and demons that he had. But this is sort of this human performance and just sort of connection performance. I thought was, we need that stuff from Mikey.
yeah, absolutely. That's what I was thinking. Good. So other things you want to hit on with napkins?
We covered about things I wanted to touch on. We do have a recap on the site, so feel free to check that out. Just some additional thoughts on what was a very good season 3 episode.
Right. Yeah. Go read Ryan wrote the recap he's referring to. Go read Ryan's write up on napkins. So I guess let's say and talk about ice chips, eh?
Yes, let's move on to Ice Chips, episode 8 of season 3. In this episode, we are finally getting to the point where Sugar, aka Natalie, who has been pregnant for some time, we get some movement in that story. She is headed off to a restaurant supply store. Everybody in the restaurant has put their phones in the locker, which was sort of a convenient thing to mention in the episode before. So she can't reach anyone. Goes into labor at this store. She's on the way to the hospital. Pete is still out of town. She sees no other option but to call her mom, Donna, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, who does meet her at the hospital. And the chaos begins there, just in telling Sugar what to do, how to act, what to get, what not to get. But during Sugar's labor, Donna is able to calm her down, and the two bond over stories of Mikey, Carmi, and Sugar's births. Sugar tells Donna that she originally did not want to tell her about the pregnancy because she was worried about exposing her child to the dysfunction of their family. Pete does finally arrive in time for the baby to come, releasing Donna of her duties, and Donna is able to go back to the waiting room where she is just sort of collapses and is comforted by the facts, waiting for the baby to come. So another sort of standalone episode, this one focusing a lot obviously on Donna and Sugar outside the restaurant. A lot of tension, the first half of some real chaos and anxious moments, but real sweet, poignant, emotional stuff towards the end. You said this might be your favorite. What do you like most about this episode?
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that's where I mean her performance as Donna is just so compelling, and she's
Yep.
just so great in the role. And this is what we get of Donna in season 3. And yeah, I just thought it was a really powerful episode. Got me thinking a lot about mothers and motherhood. And before I forget, one thing I wanted to talk about with you briefly is, what do you think of the fact that Natalie tries to call Claire
Ooh.
before she calls mom, right? It's kind of a humorous moment because she's telling her car to call Claire, and it's like calling the bear. She's like, no, call, right? That happens a couple of times. And then she finally gets off to the side of the road. She's frustrated, and then she decides, call mom. But what do you think about the fact that she tries Claire?
I didn't think of it as much of, oh, I'll just call anybody before I call my mom. I thought it more of I'm calling Claire, the medical professional, to try to get me some help here. I didn't take it as I will try everyone in my contact list on my phone before I call my mom, but she's kind of struggling to get to the hospital and what she should do. So I want Claire to help her answer some of those questions. Then when she just can get no one, it's okay, it's Donna time.
Yeah, I mean, look, Claire's not a bad choice.
Right.
Right. They have a relationship. There's a doctor, right? I mean, but then, I mean, she does kind of change her mind too, because once she's at the side of the road, she could theoretically get out her phone and call Claire, right? But instead she called mom. So I don't know, maybe in part it was a sign of her resistance towards calling her mother. I mean, I do think there was some level of that, Ryan. She is thinking of anyone she could possibly call before she calls Donna, whom she has not told she's pregnant.
Okay, so this is something I want to clarify. So I think that, yes, I understand from the conversations, this call is the first time Donna knows that Sugar is pregnant. That's correct, yes?
No.
Okay.
Because Pete told her in the season 2 finale.
That's right. That's right. He sort of let it slip. I forgot about that.
So Donna knew that Sugar was pregnant, but
okay.
Sugar had not told her mother about it.
That's right. She's not gone to Natalie and said, "Why haven't you said anything to me?"
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And that hasn't told her anything. And Pete's kept his mouth shut, apparently, about that encounter that they had in the street outside of the bear in the season 2 finale. So you have that whole dynamic, which is giving Donna the opening to ask why Natalie hasn't told her about the pregnancy. the tension of the relationship is there
Yep.
throughout. Um, I'm struggling to find the next thing to talk about, Ryan. What do you got? Give
Yeah,
me.
so I found it interesting that the thing that they connect over, while well, it's so much breathe and don't do this, don't tell me what to do. You need the epidural. I don't want all this stuff at the beginning. And the thing that finally gets them calm and connected to one another is talking about, ironically, talking about family. The thing that Sugar wants to have her child avoid, and why she's not told her mother, is that going back and learning about what her mom went through, learning what it was like for her two brothers, learning what Donna had to do, sometimes alone, sometimes with their father, sometimes with the help of other friends. Just understanding her mom a little bit more gives that, just opens the door a crack where they can connect where they haven't been able to. It seems like for years, right? Every time we've seen them together, it's either been overwhelming tension, like with Fishes, or they're avoiding one another, like in the season 2 finale, where they won't, Donna won't go in and talk to her and see what's going on. So they finally use family as a way to connect. I just found a little bit a little bit ironic in the sense that um not Donna, Natalie comes out and says, this family, our dysfunction is what I've wanted this child to avoid. They're going to use that to try to reconnect here.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I got to thinking about it too, though, in terms of like, I guess my thought, I want to frame it as something like the general versus the particular or something. Because in general, there's a lot of problems here. And that includes with Donna and her personality, which, look, Nat loves her mother. I don't think that's
Yeah.
ever been
Yeah.
the issue. The problem, if we go back to Fishes, is what kind of thing might she do? Will she freak out? How will she freak out? Um, what will the damage of that be? And if you recall, if you think back to Sugar and Fishes, she was constantly just like trying to keep things calm enough,
Yeah.
right? Like that was her primary motivation. But what we get here is, I think the connection you're mentioning, what I found myself thinking about is in this particular situation, because Donna can find a way to be there for her daughter in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
You're in labor. I've done this. Let's talk about my experiences doing this, right? And she can help Nat along, just focused in on the situation that they're in. Whereas, in contrast, in the season 2 finale, the situation of going to the family night, she couldn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
She ultimately found herself unable to do that.
And I think it was, it's hard to read a lot into what Donna feels and things that are important to her, but I think she says that, I was getting my hair done or something, right? It's
Mhm.
like, yeah, the things that probably are important to her that bring her comfort, she would have dropped whatever it was to Natalie's side. I think in some ways, I don't know. I'm trying to think if she regrets not going in Friends and Family Night, especially after Pete let slip that they were going to have a child. Has that been weighing on her? We don't get the impression that she and Natalie have talked much since then,
Or at all.
or at all. And so yeah, so how is Donna feeling? And it's interesting that Mikey and Carmi and Natalie point to Donna as, she's got all the problems, she got all the problems. But she's the one I think who really drops everything to do something for them whenever they need her.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that, look, I don't have a diagnosis and I'm not trying to play armchair psychiatrist, but Donna is neurotic and
Yeah,
she knows that she's neurotic, right? Like she knows that she is not the
yeah,
paragon of mental health, right? When Sugar says, it's not you, it's everything you bring with you,
yeah,
or however she puts that exactly. Donna knows what she's talking about. She said, yeah, I've been
yeah,
trying to trying to work on that,
Yeah.
but it's hard,
Yeah. And I think that there is a recognition of that. And I believe in the episode, she says, yes, I'm working on that. I'm trying to get better. I understand it. There's just sort of a sense of acceptance of it. And particularly in this new stage of our life where I am a grandmother, that I want to be a part of this life. And so there are things I'm going to have to work on to be a part of that life.
right? But at the same time, as soon as Pete shows up, she just leaves the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I'm not criticizing her for.
Yeah. I think
I think it's appropriate, but there's something to think about there.
It's a recognition of where her place is, right? That Pete is the one who should be there in that moment. She played the role that she was supposed to play. I think that she played it better than any of us going into that episode would have thought that she would have played the role. And then, yeah, I think that Donna not acting, manic or in a neurotic state when Pete shows up and demanding to stay or demanding that, I'd be here till the end, sort of shows one small step of improvement, maybe just that Donna's accepting sort of what's going on here.
Yeah, or at least, thinking about the experiences that she relays, which you can tell she was also neurotic during those when she was in labor with her kids. But that's not the point. I think what comes through her anecdotes is that she felt often that control was being taken away from her and so on, right? And that she can pull on that to not be too controlling with regards to Natalie, right? Like she thinks you're going to want an epidural. This is going to hurt a lot, but she ultimately says, whatever you want. No, it's up to you, right? This is, and I think means it, right? And is able to pull on her own experience to connect and guide Natalie. Again, I just kept finding myself thinking about how that functioned in this particular situation.
Yeah.
It probably does have some positive impacts on the relationship moving forward, but it doesn't mean that like everything's fine now. It doesn't get rid of the way in which Natalie is worried about her child being exposed to the kind of stuff that she was exposed to from Donna, right?
I think that's true. I also think as someone that's gone through this twice with my wife, you don't remember everything, but you remember sort of the core memory pieces of how that whole experience goes. And I think that Natalie will look back on this and remember what Donna has done, remember how she helped her through it, remember that in the moment where she couldn't find anyone else, that Donna really, even in spite of herself, stepped up and was able to give Natalie what she needed. So, is it first few steps in a relationship being fully healed? Maybe, unlikely, but there'll still be those things there, but something.
Well, but let's focus on the thing that Natalie says ultimately. So I think this kind of gets to the crux of it. She tells Donna that Natalie, would do anything for Donna to be okay.
Yeah.
And Donna says like, "Oh, that's sweet" or something. And Natalie said, "No, that's fucked up. That's what's not okay about our relationship."
Yeah.
That I think that, man, that really gets to how you think about being a kid, growing up in that environment. We've seen Donna in Fishes and the way that she can freak out and the unpredictability of that. And Natalie would do anything for that to not happen, for her mother to not be suffering, for her mother to not freak out. But that's putting such a felt sense of responsibility on a child in the first instance. And that Natalie was saying, no, but that's what's the crux of what's unhealthy about this relationship.
Yeah. They have been so long, things that they have always, as you said, always willing to do for her, but also things that they're not willing to address with her, or things that they've just allowed to build and grow, and ways that they have let her be without addressing it. I don't know how much Natalie blames her mother for things like, Carmi moving away, for Mikey taking his life, for things like that. But that's got to be there somewhere, right? So it must be hard to take those first few steps.
Mhm. Yeah, and I don't know where it goes from here. I mean, is Donna in season 4? Maybe not. There's no guarantee here of what they're doing with the series overall. Let's talk a little bit about the end, though, when she goes to the lobby and with the facts.
Yeah.
We get like a coda,
Yeah.
but basically, you have the whole episode, basically, and then it functions like a coda. She goes out to the lobby, she sits with the facts.
Yeah.
They kind of comfort her,
Yeah.
joke with her about how she's going to be a grandma now. I don't know. Any thoughts about that? I enjoyed it. It landed for me.
I think about it in terms of, so we had this conversation last week about the role of the facts in this season, and how maybe much more so than any role they played in moving things forward, they were just there for sort of the comic relief often, or the to sort of break the ice or sort of bring some levity to some things. This was an episode where, maybe some of that was needed. I was glad that they did it, as you said, sort of as this coda at the end, that all this buildup, we can at least sort of get back, just let that fall off the cliff a little bit and come back to some, just this is what it's actually like between all of them. And I thought the comfort was sort of sweet on their part. And I think this episode needed to end with a little bit of that, just sort of, okay, let's breathe and release and let this thing happen. Yeah.
And they actually do release the tension for us here a
Yeah.
bit, which the bear does not always do. The bear does not
Right.
always release tension. They actually do release the tension
Yeah.
for us here a bit. And then we really don't
Yeah.
pick up. We don't see Natalie again in this
Nope.
season.
We don't see her. We don't see Pete. Let me just to Pete, my guy. When it's post 7 months, do not go out of town for a week. This is 23. We have Zoom. We have whatever you need. You can convince your employer to not go out of town.
Where did he go though?
It doesn't say he went somewhere for a week. I don't know if it says where he went.
I feel like when he comes back, he says he won. I think it's probably in there. We need to rewatch the episode when he's leaving, and I think he says where he was going. You're probably right that there's probably not really an excuse for going anywhere.
Yeah.
But Pete's a little bit of a doofus, and Natalie said it was okay and that she'd be fine, and he believed her. And
it's never okay, Pete. Even if they say it's okay, it's never okay.
Right? Yeah, should have done that. Should have done that. He doesn't know what to do. It's also a nice moment between him and Donna, where she tells him, just be there, basically.
Yeah, just be there for it. Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I thought this was a really great episode. It's hard to, I don't even see the point of trying to argue or decide whether Ice Chips is the best episode of the season or Napkins was the best episode of the season.
Right.
But this definitely feels like it's in the mix for me. And, as you asked me at the beginning of our discussion here, it's the Jamie Lee Curtis of it all. I just think her performance as Donna is so good.
Yeah. You needed this episode.
Supporting actress Emmy right now.
You need this episode just to let her do her thing for 25 minutes. I mean, it just was, it was phenomenal.
Yeah. And I appreciated the focus on Natalie.
Yeah.
Who I really think as a character has gotten more and more depth over the course of these 3 seasons. I think Abby Elliott is doing a great job there as well as Natalie. And I care about Natalie, and I want to see more Natalie. Is she okay? And like, where's the baby? And did Carmi ever come visit? And
I think
they really do leave us without resolution on almost everything, don't they?
Carmi got a picture. I think that's all we've seen so far.
Yeah. All right, and they eat ice chips.
That's right. Yeah, which is a real thing. I mean, we all know this.
Yeah, just. I mean, is it? Wait. Because you have experience with your wife, going in labor and all that. Is it a real thing to like eat ice while you're in labor? Is that
is something that they offer? I don't think that we did.
Oh,
that is definitely something they offer. When you get to a point where like it's not wise for you to eat or drink anything anymore, that they'll say, yeah, just to have something that can cool you down, that can keep your mind off of things, something just to keep you hydrated. Yeah, here's some ice chips to join. Yeah, that they
Okay.
do offer that. Yeah.
All right. Interesting. I wasn't aware of that. I mean, I do have experience of just like eating ice.
Yeah.
I can't say I do it all the time, but I've done it before. It can be an enjoyable experience. You just eat some
Right.
ice. But cool. Um, I think that about does it here.
Yeah.
I feel like there should be more, but I mean, with both of these episodes we talked about today, I guess part of it is I just found both episodes to be so emotionally impactful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the viewing experience more than something to be able to
It is.
articulate in
It
words.
is. Yeah. Like I said, if I wanted to watch a show, and they do plenty of this, but if I wanted to watch a show to learn how to make certain fine dining dishes and follow a crew at a restaurant every single night, I would probably watch something different. I
Yeah.
appreciate the balance of getting some of that with a lot of this other wonderful stuff.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, maybe more food would have been good in
Yeah.
season 3. But really powerful episodes in here. And yeah, so I guess that does it. So next week, we're going to take a week off
Yeah,
because
first time ever.
Ryan's going on vacation or something. I don't know
Yeah,
where.
yeah, gonna be in the middle of nowhere with the kids, so not much podcasting capability.
That's fine. Yeah, we've been doing this every week for over a year, so should be okay. It was a light news week this week. It did occur to me, I'll keep an eye on the news, and if anything feels like it's worth hitting on, I could
Yeah,
record something briefly myself just on the news of the week. But if
there
it's
you
at all
go.
like this week where we struggle to find anything, yeah. So if there's big news, maybe
Yes,
I'll be back solo next week, but I don't really want to do that anyway. I prefer having a conversation.
yes,
So the
sir.
plan is that we'll be off next week on the 12th, and then reconvene on July 19th. And the current plan is we're going to talk about the show coming to Apple TV Plus called Lady in the Lake, starring Natalie Portman. This is based on the novel of the same name by Laura Lippman, not the Raymond Chandler novel from the 1940s, nor the Sir Walter Scott poem from the 19th century, nor the M. Night Shyamalan movie Lady in the Water. It doesn't
Yeah,
relate to any of those things.
definitely not that one.
Anyway, so hopefully people will join us for that. The show, murder mystery broadly. I don't know if you want to say anything more about it to kind of tease it for people.
Yeah, it just follows sort of a very tough black neighborhood in Baltimore in the 1960s, and Natalie Portman is a housewife who's trying to do something else in her life and sort of finds her way into investigative journalism, trying to solve this murder that happens in Baltimore. And there's some very artistic, I think, avant-garde things about this show, but also a real, apparently very, I think, realistic look at what it was like in the black parts of Baltimore in the 1960s. So should be a very interesting show. At least I have my screeners already, so I'll be going through it. We'll be ready to. I think the 19th is when it debuts, so we'll be ready to have that drop if anybody wants to check it out.
Yeah, I still have to email them. But so anyway, we'll check out Lady in the Lake. Hopefully you all will join us on that. As Ryan mentioned, it premieres on July 19th. We'll put out the podcast on July 19th. So hopefully follow along with us. Again, we won't be here next week with apologies on the 12th, but you can check out TVObscessive.com, read about the bear, read about other stuff, peruse the site, as it were. Follow TV Obsessive on social media. Um, check out the YouTube channel. Just do give a like, give a subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, looking forward to it. See you then.